Hey, welcome. I'm Chris Lopez, host of the Valley Pod, where we talk to all the interesting people of the San Luis Valley. Hey, we're at the Sky High Complex in Monte Vista for the Southern Rocky Mountain Ag Conference. We're talking ag, water, and conservation all week. Joining us is Bob Mativi, partner of Worley Family Farms in Monte Vista and president of the National Potato Council. Mr. Mativi, thank you for stopping by. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. It's good to see you, Chris.
Good to see you too. Hey, give us a sense first of the importance of this ag conference, both to irrigators, crop producers, and to the community of Monte Vista, Rio Grande County.
Well, this is the biggest ag conference that the Valley will have. It brings together all producers from all segments, livestock, potato growers, other grain growers, just all segments of the industry. So it's really a great opportunity for people to come. The vendors, we have some great vendors, so they can see the latest technology and offerings from those vendors, and just a good chance to network with neighbors that you may not see all the time, and friends, and we have good topics at the presentations, so you can catch up on what some of the latest topics are in all of the industries. And
it's held here in early February, which is one of the slower periods, I guess, if you will, where ag producers can come to an event like this before they really get busy.
Right, yeah, it's going to start getting busy here in another month, and so it's a good time for everybody to kind of cut loose and come to town.
Hey, later on here in February, I know you're headed back to Washington, D.C. as part of your work as president of the National Potato Council. What is your order of business on this first trip back to D.C. 2025, new federal administration? What's your order of business? What do you hope to accomplish?
Well, we do a lot of advocacy work. Of course, Farm Bill is going to be top of mind for what we're doing, because that's a really important part of all the programs that we're involved with. Research for ag, potato research is a big part of what we push for. We're going to be talking about labor issues. We're going to be talking about the Farm Bill, obviously, trade issues. Those are probably the big three that we're going to be working with. EPA, there'll be some change because we have new administration. We're going to have a new USDA Secretary of Agriculture, there's going to be a new EPA administrator. There's going to be a lot of changes, as well as we'll always do our Hill visits, and we're going to have some new freshman legislators to introduce ourselves to.
You have a new congressperson here in the 3rd Congressional?
Yes, we do. We'll have Jeff Hurd, Representative Jeff Hurd will be representing us, and I know him personally, and we've had opportunities to visit. And so, yeah, we've got some education to do for, several new members in Colorado. We have three new House members in CD3 and 5 and 8. So, as well as, around the country, there'll be other members. So it's an educational opportunity.
As you have seen a flurry of activity from the new White House, from the new President Trump, are there anything that has happened so far that is either adding complications to your work, to the lobbying efforts, or the educational efforts? I don't know how you're seeing some of this initial flurry of activity, and if that, what you think of that, or just how do you go into a session like this knowing what you've seen already?
Right. A lot of the trade issues, I guess, if you want to, look at tariffs and stuff that have been talked about, those are important because about 20% of potatoes grown in the U.S. are destined for export. And so that's a concern to us, especially if there's retaliatory issues that come about as a result of some of these policy decisions. So it's too soon to tell what's going to happen, but and as we've talked before, and Mexico is a big export market for Colorado potatoes, and so we're concerned. We're not, we don't know what's going to happen there, but we just want to stay abreast of what is going on so that we don't get
Blindsided.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, really, we appreciate you stopping by and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference and good luck when you head back to D.C. later in the month. Hey, we're talking to celebrity chef Jason Morse. He's joining us and giving a presentation demonstration cooking at the end of the first day of the Ag Conference.
Yep.
You're an expert in barbecue, smoking meat, grilling, amazing recipes. First, give us a tip.
A tip. You know, my biggest tip is most people are grilling colder than they should be. I know that people get a little nervous when your grill's 450 or 500 degrees, so they tend to stay away from that. But I'll tell you what, whether you're grilling potatoes or broccoli or steaks, chicken, pork chops, your vegetables, your proteins love that high temperature. I always say go hot, stay hot. Start your meal nice and hot. We're doing charred broccoli tonight for one of our things on the grill, and it's a whole different taste in broccoli versus steam. Steaks, the more you go hot, you get more Maillard, you get crust, char, and sear. So cook hotter than you really are more comfortable doing, and you're going to have a better time, better food.
Give us a preview of what you're going to present tonight as part of your demonstration, your presentation here at the Ag Conference.
So every year at Ag Conference, we work with our friends at Colorado Potatoes. So we come down and do kind of the appetizer or happy hour foods. So tonight we're doing mashed potato pizzas, which are always fun. So we have a Neapolitan style or Italian style pizza oven. We're going to cook them really, really hot. We're going to top them with onions, cheese, all that good stuff. So mashed potato pizza is one. We're doing smashed potato sliders. So we're actually steaming red potatoes right now. What we're going to do is smash them on the griddle, get them all nice and crispy. We're going to lay them in a pan, then we're going to top them with cheese and bacon. Then we'll cut out little chunks of them after we flash them in the pizza oven to heat them up. And we're going to serve them on toasted King's Hawaiian buns. So you're getting like a loaded smashed potato slider.
Going to have to be here to see some of that. But let me ask you this, because the Super Bowl's coming up, and what you just described are perfect Super Bowl food menus in my view. Where would I be able to find these types of recipes if I'm looking on the internet for Chef Morse?
Yeah, if you go to, you can go to YouTube. I'm Ace Hardware's national spokesperson and grill expert as well. So you can go to YouTube, find the Ace Hardware YouTube channel. We have a ton of recipes for every grill on the market. Or go to Colorado Potatoes. I do a lot of work with Colorado Potatoes for their recipes as well. So go to Colorado Potatoes website and grab some of the recipes. Tons and tons of fun things. Last year we did loaded mashed potato sliders. So we actually made mashed potatoes and then loaded them, piped them into King's Hawaiian buns, so you got like a soft and squishy, and they thought it was crazy. They literally thought it was crazy, and everybody loved them. I think I've done them 2 or 3 times down here, and they go crazy for them. So think outside the potato, right? Do things that are different. Potatoes are great as appetizers, are great as center of the plate. They're really fun for snacks. A lot of cool things.
I love potatoes. I heard, though, a factoid at this conference. Potatoes, the most preferred vegetable.
Yeah.
But the second most preferred vegetable is what you also talked about, broccoli.
Yeah. Potatoes are America's #1 vegetable. I think that's super cool. When you look at potatoes from a mashed standpoint or roasted, you look at potato wedges, you look at fries, tater tots. Potatoes are America's favorite vegetable. Broccoli is right there behind it. I love broccoli. I think broccoli's fantastic. I actually am the person that likes the broccoli stem, probably a tick above the floret. I think it's great. And what's interesting is there's so many things you can do with it. We're going to do oil tonight, a little lemon pepper seasoning, and then we're going to char them at about 600 degrees on the grill just to get some char, some color, and some flavor. And I'll tell you, it's a whole different eating experience. Whether you roast them in the oven, you char them on the grill, or you steam them, I love broccoli. I literally could eat broccoli every day.
I'm with you on that. Hey, that's the type of content you get at the Ag Conference, Chef Morse. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, we're visiting with my old friend Regan Velasquez. It's good to see you, brother.
Thank you. Good to see you as well.
Hey, you did a session on regenerative ag yesterday here at the Ag Conference. Explain that session, why you did it, why you think that is an important session. You had a full house.
I think regenerative ag in general is very important because Right now we are in agriculture, we are at this cusp. We know we have unhealthy soils, we know we have problems with dust blowing, we're losing topsoil. And in 2019, we did a family trip from Washington back to the ranch. And my daughter, upon getting out of the car, says, "Papa, I've never seen the ranch look so bad." And my wife and I had kind of known that we were seeing some problems with the ranch, but to have our daughter throw it out there just like that made us realize we need to start doing something. So we go back to Washington and we spent the next 2 years learning about soil health and regenerative ag, learning how to produce good, tasty meat. We took a class called Colorado Meat School. We just really started learning about what we can do to better our environment, basically. We're seeing a lot less water. Back when I was a kid, we had 3 feet of snow around the ranch every year. Now we have a thin blanket, a sheet, the thickness of a sheet, and that sheet has lots of holes. So we have a water problem. All these things added up to we need to do something. So in all of our research, it brought us to regenerative ag. And the way we're going to win this game with climate change is by having healthier soils, getting more organic matter into your soil so you hold more water. So the water we do get, it stays in the soil rather than running off. If you have a really hard, compact ground, that water doesn't have a chance to penetrate. It needs a way to get in. And all these regenerative ag practices, residue management, bale feeding, no-till, using no-till drills, so you have less disturbance. That's what's important because that's what's healing the soil, these practices. If you rip that soil up every single year, every 5 years, it has to rebuild itself. So when you're in cropped fields that are plowed, every 4 or 5 years they have to rebuild themselves. We're trying to, and we're practicing where we don't have to do any rebuilding. Our soils are fairly healthy, but we want to get them healthier. We had a lot of bare spots. Bare spots don't feed animals. Bare spots are at risk of erosion from the wind, from the rain. You start having no cover on your ground, it gets hot. One of the most interesting tests you can do with somebody is get a digital thermometer and test the temperature of bare ground, and then go and do the same test in the grass next to the ground. You spread it apart. There'll be as much as a 30-degree difference. So those are the kind of things that we really need to implement across our rangelands to get them healthier, to heal the water cycles, to heal the nutrient cycles. Some of these processes that have been broken through tillage, through fertilizers, we've got our lands addicted to synthetics. We got to get them weaned off of synthetics through the cover crops, green manure, stuff like that. That's going to help heal your soil.
That's fascinating. Another step you took recently, you and others in Conejos County, was you reestablished the Conejos County Conservation District.
Correct.
You're a supervisor now on that district. Why was that important? Why is that important when you think of moving ahead with agriculture in that county particularly?
The main reason is there were a lot of grants and funding available, but there was no entity in Conejos County or Costilla County to access those grants. I'm speaking mainly of the Colorado Soil Health Program. So the Sangre de Cristo Acequia Association is the acting entity in place of a conservation district, so we could access those money to help producers implement the kind of things that I just spoke about. So without having a good representation, we can't access those federal dollars. So the importance of, the next step is to get one established in Costilla County. Now that we have one in Conejos County, we have that conduit for expertise, for technical assistance. People can call me up and say, hey, tell me about what you're doing. Let's see if we can do the same thing on my land. So that's why it was important to get it established. We need a conduit to access help.
You grew up here in the valley, Conejos County. You know the valley well. You moved away. You had another life. You came back, like I did. You came back around 2020, 2021. What is your assessment of Valley Ag today? How do you see things?
I see us, we're at not necessarily a tipping point, but we're in a very fragile situation between the water, the land, markets. The valley relies on agriculture. That's its main lifeline, is agriculture. And if we don't pay attention to the changes that are happening and not adapt to them, and that's the key word, is adaptation, we're going to lose our agricultural valley. So we need to adapt. We need to work together, mainly community. One of the in holistic management, one of the goals that you work with is helping your community. So that's also what I've done, is getting involved in the community to build it back up. It'd be nice to see our agricultural dairies come back. You know, when I was a kid, when you were a kid, we had dairies that brought milk to the schools. We had flour mills. We had a cheese factory. All that stuff is gone. If we all work together, and kind of try to cut big ag out of the picture, we can bring some of those communities back, build those communities back up with new, not necessarily new, but regenerative businesses. Another flour mill. It'd be great to have some place where you could go grind up your flour. So I think those are important to a community like the San Luis Valley, where we have lots of small little towns, and I see all these little towns dying. When my dad was a kid, Aunt Nita was a thriving business. You could get anything there. Now there's 2 or 3 businesses.
You know, one of the things that has come up at this ag conference, and we were just talking, asked Jay Sanders from the SLV Local Foods Coalition about it, and I want to ask you, because I think, and that is the lack of processing centers for cattle, beef, chicken, no USDA certified processors in the valley anymore. Is that a possibility to reintroduce, bring back regional processing centers? Is that a way to connect back to local farms? Do you ever see that as a possibility, or is that needed?
It's definitely needed, and I do see that as a possibility. One of the things that they did in Washington is there's mobile processors. So that is really pretty great idea, where the processor comes to your land, processes the animal, and either puts it in your freezer or puts it in somebody else's freezer. One of the things that we do is we sell direct to the consumer, so we don't have to have a USDA certified processor. That really helps the situation. But if you are trying to sell at a farmer's market or try to get into some of the local grocery stores, I'd love to get my hamburger into the local grocery store. But there's a lot of hoops. It has to be USDA processed. There's just a lot of certifications that you have to go through. And if somebody's willing to do that, yeah, those markets are slowly opening up.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. It's good to see you, Regan.
Very welcome. Nice chatting with you.
This episode of the Valley Pod is presented by Monte Vista Co-op. We're going to visit with a few of their team members as part of this break. The Monte Vista Co-op is a huge part of the Ag Conference each year. We're joined now by Mike Hampel. He's the fertilizer guy at Monte Vista Co-op. Tell us about that part of your job and what you are trying to get across, or why you come to the Ag Conference.
Part of our being at the Ag Conference is to support our members, the farming members of the Valley. And because we are a cooperative, so we are owned by the members. We're not a standalone business. Our profits all stay here. They don't go outside the state or outside the valley. Everything, it's all returned to the growers. And as the agronomy division, our job is to meet with our clients and to assist them in raising the best crops they can, and to help them make the best profitability that they can.
And how is that side of Monte Vista Co-op, the fertilizer business? Because I noticed years ago you built a whole big new storage.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
So you must be doing well.
Well, it was about a grower. I'll tell you a story. A grower came in to see me, and he was complaining about that we spent all this money on this new facility. And I asked him, how did you get here? Well, I drove my 2020 pickup or whatever that model was. I said, why aren't you driving a 1964 Ford F100? Oh, that's a 60-year-old pickup. I said, so's the old building. So it's all about moving ahead in agriculture. You have to keep moving ahead. You can't stay status quo. You have to continue to move ahead in what we do and what kind of products and services that we offer, and then how we deal with our customers.
And how did you get started in agriculture, as a fertilizer person?
Okay.
Take us back a bit there.
That's a long ways back, actually. I grew up on a dairy farm in south central Kansas. So every day at 4 a.m., everybody works. And when I went off to college to get my degree, I wanted to do that. I was a first generation college student. But I didn't want to return to the farm to milk cows. I was more interested in production agriculture. That's where my interest lies. And so I sought out my own career, and I've been out, that's 45 years ago or so, thereabouts. And so I've been in the fertilizer business ever since.
Last question, how did you get from Kansas to Monte Vista to the Monte Vista Co-op?
I was living in Garden City, Kansas at the time and getting ready to semi-retire. Maybe find a part-time job or something like that. And I knew a guy who knew Eric, and we both actually knew each other, this guy in the middle. He called me up and I said, yeah, I talked to Eric. I get a call from Eric and he says, come out here, I want to talk to you. Here I am.
We're glad you're here.
Yes, I'm glad to be here. I'm having a lot of fun and learning a lot in the process. So.
Mike Campbell, the fertilizer guy at Monte Vista Co-op. Hey, we're joined by James Scherzer. He's the energy director for Monte Vista Co-op. Tell us about that division, that department of Monte Vista Co-op, energy.
Well, my department, we sell a lot of propane, refined fuels, diesel, gasoline, and we also do a lot of oils too.
When you think of your department itself and the energy department, energy division at Monte Vista Co-op, what are the issues, if any, that you confront?
Well, big issues that I face are market changes constantly, from minutes to hourly to daily, weeklies. Seasonal changes as well, and demands and supply.
How is the propane side of business for Monte Vista Co-op and what you see in the San Luis Valley? I'm imagining that's a big piece of it. Yeah,
especially in the wintertime. I tell people I have two seasons. I have propane season, I have refined fuel season. This time of year, propane is a big thing for us. A lot of people use this propane for heating their houses, cooking, heating their water. It's a necessity to living in the San Luis Valley.
Do you have a figure by chance on how much propane gets used? And I don't know if you can, I don't know how you measure that.
It varies from year to year to usage. From a standard house, it could be well under 1,000 gallons to a commercial application could be anywhere from 40 to 60,000 gallons.
Gotcha, so a lot of variation there.
Yeah.
When you come to the Ag Conference each year, what are you, as the Energy Division Department, what are you trying to do here specifically?
I'm trying to bring awareness to attendance to the conference of, hey, this is the services that we provide, and we can customize any plan for you, and what works for your operations.
And how long have you been with Monte Vista Co-op?
Probably a total of 10 years.
Are you a Valley native?
I am. Yeah.
From?
From Del Norte originally.
And how do you like your job?
I love my job. I'm both my grandfather and my dad were board members of the Monte Vista Co-op, so I was pretty much raised in the co-op.
Hey, we're joined by Dennis Maxwell. He's with the equipment division with Monte Vista Co-op. You did a demonstration earlier today on day 2 of the conference.
Yes, sir.
The MC152 Kubota. Tell us about that and how that demo went.
It went really well this morning. Did it out in the arena. Had a couple of people show up, some people really interested in it. One of the bigger tractors Kubota makes in the industry. Showed them some of the more interesting parts of the tractor, went over it. So it it was a pretty good demo this morning.
When you come to the Ag Conference as the equipment division manager, what are you trying to get across, or what are you hoping to get across to the event, to participants that come here?
So a lot of what we do here is not so much to try to do any sales. It's more of just a contact, see guys, see how they're doing, see how what their plans are for the year, see what we can help them with, kind of see where their motivations are for the spring, see if there's anything we can help them with. You know, trying to get our foot in the door to see how we can start their spring out.
A lot of customer service, customer relations.
Customer relations, really big at this.
Monte Vista Co-op's big with customer relations. Let me ask you, how long have you been with Monte Vista Co-op in the equipment division and in ag business?
So I have been with the equipment division for 14 years. Started there in 2010. Before that, I actually farmed, and I farmed for about 9 years on a family farm.
How do you like being in the business side rather than farming operation? I mean, you may still farm, but how do you like the transition you made?
In the beginning, a little bit different. Yeah. You're selling the guy the part instead of trying to find the parts. So it's a little bit of a different situation, but it was good. Now I look at it and it's completely, you're 180. Now you look at it as what can I do to try to help them get better, help them improve what they're doing, what can we bring in to make their operation easier.
Are you originally from the Valley?
I am not.
Where are you from?
Estes Park.
And how'd you get into the Valley?
So my grandparents have been here. My grandparents actually grew up here. Nice. And so my mom moved away, and I came back every summer I had a chance to be on the farm, did everything I could to be here instead of in a city. And as soon as I graduated high school, graduated in May, moved down here 3 weeks later.
Hey, we're here with Lila Hathaway. She's the administrator for the United Potato Growers of Colorado. They're hosting the Potato Business Summit here at this year's Ag Conference. Lila, explain the Business Summit, the Potato Business Summit for us, and then why it was important or is important to be part of the Ag Conference.
Sure. So United Potato Growers started the Business Summit about 10 years ago, and we started by implementing something from the economic side, tax and finance, agronomy, just different pieces of the business of growing potatoes into an afternoon of about 30-minute presentations. We've had estate planners and different types of, everything involved with the land and raising potatoes. And this year we thought it would be great to include it with the Ag Conference because there's a lot of overlap with it, and we feel like the Ag Conference has really become a noteworthy event and wanted to be able to participate and bring our expertise to the conference.
Well, definitely a lot of potato growers from the Valley that come here to this particular event. There's going to be some sessions later on today through the Ag Conference that look interesting, a National Potato Report, things like that. Give us a sense of what information, what you're trying to get across to participants at this year's event.
Sure. So we have Potatoes USA, which focuses on consumption and marketing. We have Ben Eborn, who deals with a lot of the economics of the industry. We have Stephen Nicholson, who is with Rabo AgriFinance, and also the keynote speaker. Yeah, so he'll be doing a presentation, banking and economics focused a little bit more towards potatoes, but just with a lot of changes going on right now. Legislatively, he's going to address that a little bit too. And then I work with United Potato Growers of Colorado and United Potato Growers of America, and our CEO, Mark Klompain, will give an outlook on the supply and demand, which is kind of what we focus on and how that affects pricing and return to growers.
When you think of 2025 and then we're going into another irrigation water season, what's top of mind for potato growers today?
Yeah, I think efficiency is probably with water and everything really, all their inputs is.
Hey, we're talking to Jay Sanders. She's with the SLV Local Foods Coalition, and this morning, Wednesday morning, you presented on a food assessment. It's called the San Luis Valley Community Food Ag Assessment Findings, an assessment that was taken back in 2022, 2023. You released findings in 2024, I believe, and now this morning you presented those findings to the ag conference.
Yeah.
This is going to be a hard one for you.
Okay.
Jay, we're going up 10 floors in an elevator. Give me that ag assessment findings, highlights, if you will, from your perspective.
Okay. The highlights of that 76-page assessment. We really looked at what producers need, what the community needs, and what food businesses need. And one of the things that stood out to me and came out of it is there's a lot of resources needed, whether it be financial, education, or connections made. And it breaks down amongst these different groups of people. They need different things, but a lot of people, everyone needs more money for all sorts of things. A lot of education is desired by food businesses around marketing, bookkeeping, and just general business management. If you're a baker, you might be a really good baker, but you don't really have business skills. So helping those businesses access those resources, which often exist, we just don't know where, or they just don't know where to find them. So that's one of the things. And then the community really desires education around growing their own food, preserving it, processing it, and storing it. Also composting and more education around where to buy local foods. So those are some of the things.
Some of the highlights.
Yeah.
A couple of things I took away listening to the presentation I want to ask you about, and what you just talked about, connecting dots so people see what's out there, so Valley residents see the farmers markets that do exist, the small operations that do exist, how to do it yourself. I call it just connecting dots through when it comes to local foods and fresh foods. Is that one? That seemed to be one of the areas of people, of how do you make people aware and how do you connect people into the system?
Yeah, so that was a big thing. Producers wanted to sell food locally and may not know where. Food businesses like grocers and bakers and restaurants want to buy local food, weren't sure where to get it, and the community wants to buy local food and support their producers and isn't sure. So one of the things that we have is our local resource guide. It's a little directory, and it has the listing of all the veggie producers, ranchers that you can directly buy from, as well as any local stores, though our guide currently is a few years old, we're updating it right now. But a great place to start is your farmer's market, which they're not in every town in the valley, but Alamosa, Monte Vista, Del Norte have them. And then the Valley Roots Food Hub is a great place to get local foods and for producers to sell into.
Another thing you talked about was more backyard gardens, more people wanting to grow their own food through their own personal private garden or through community gardens.
Yeah. One of the questions in our community survey was, what would help you access the food you want more easily? And the number one thing people said was knowledge about how to grow, preserve, and store their own food. And that to me is very hopeful and very exciting. And one of the things that we realize is that CSU Extension offers these classes. The community just doesn't know about them. And so I think one of the things that we're going to do now that we have found out this information is start helping CSU market their education and maybe even host the classes and have people sign up to learn that sort of stuff.
A thing you hear a lot about in the ag community and when people are trying to buy fresh foods is the lack of USDA processing centers for beef, cattle, chicken processing was in your process. Is that even realistic, I guess? Or how do you see that particular piece of the puzzle?
So, the things that we produce here are potatoes and beef that people eat, then a lot of fodder and some grains. But we have so many ranchers, and they have to take their cattle out of the valley to have them processed. And they used to be able to get them processed here, but we no longer have any USDA processors in the valley. And you need USDA if you're going to retail your meat. If you're not going to retail your meat, you're just going to get your cow processed and then sell direct to consumer. You don't need USDA processing, but you need all the storage to store that frozen meat and systems in place to do that direct sale. And a lot of guys don't want to do that. So the USDA beef processing is it comes up over and over, and I'm interested in talking to our processors now about what of them can just come on board with USDA, and it's a lot of work and expensive for them, or do we need to have a whole nother facility? And there is a mobile Montanza out of New Mexico that I know people are interested in having up here, because that is a mobile semi-truck that is USDA certified that can go on site and process for you. So that's an interesting option, and we're kind of looking into all of it and how can we support that particular niche of beef processing here.
When you talk about mobile, one of the assessment findings that you articulated was the desire for more mobile fresh food markets moving around the valley.
Yeah.
How could that work?
Well, so food access was a thing, one of the lenses we looked through in this assessment. And, if you're familiar with the valley, everything's very spread out. And there are currently 13 towns or communities in this valley that people live, where there's like significant populations of people and there are no grocery stores. Whether it's 100 to 1,000 people, there's no stores in Moffett or Manassas. And there's a lot of expense in having a brick and mortar retail space. You're renting the building, you're paying electricity, you have employees. So I'm feeling like a mobile market may be a really good, at least stopgap or thing to do in the meantime. So we could be delivering food to the communities where there is no store. And, I just know that on Fridays at 5 o'clock, I can go down to my corner and purchase food right from a market that shows up, and then it rolls down to the next town or the next community that doesn't have any access. So I'm very interested, and people are interested in this, and that to me looks like a really good, next step.
Yeah, talk about that. You've done for the SLV Local Foods Coalition. Now that the assessment findings have been out, you've been communicating, articulating them. What's the next phase, steps to implementation or to addressing some of the assessment, some of the findings themselves?
So the assessment was phase 1 of this 3-phase project. Second phase is this action plan that we're working on. It's community driven. We're currently interviewing experts across the valley in different food and ag system spaces. We're holding focus groups with different sectors, and then we're taking kind of the data we find and the draft of our plan back out to community members across the whole valley, having them weigh in. But this action plan is going to lay out what are we actually going to do about all the needs that we see. And so I'm hoping that the community does say, yeah, a mobile market, we would support that. Then we'll put that in the action plan, and we'll identify who's going to lead that project, what are the resources needed for it, when's it going to happen, how are we going to measure success of that. And so we have 4 main goals that we're going to put in this action plan, and each of those overarching goals is going to have a handful of action items below it, and that we're in the middle of figuring that all out right now. And then phase 3 will be implementing that action plan.
Just before we visited with you, we visited with young Amias Mestis, who's a young farmer, 20-year-old, has his own farm that he's working through in San Luis on his family's property. How important is it to the valley, to the future of fresh food access, to see young people like Amias wanting to figure this out?
It's very important. I don't know the real number, and I feel like it changes, but the average age of most farmers and ranchers is around 60, maybe 58, 60. And there's a major gap in their succession. Their kids often do not want to take over that operation. They don't have kids to take over the operation. And so you'll actually see at conferences like this and around, every time there's an ag conference, there is a succession planning and how are we going to move from this farmer that's ready to retire onto somebody else. So having young people getting involved in agriculture is very important for our future.
And he painted for me a bit more of an optimistic or hopeful picture of fresh food access, farmers markets in Costilla County itself, which I didn't quite realize or understand that they're making better progress maybe than we understood.
Well, in Costilla County, there is a tradition of growing your own food, and everybody that, any families from there always produce their own food somehow. So they have a very intact agricultural community, the acequia community, and they're still using all of that. And so I think that's a great place for a lot of food to come out of. And it's just a matter of connecting the dots. Are people able to grow enough that's going to feed more than their families? And if they are growing more, where is it getting cleaned, processed, and distributed to? And, Costilla County at this moment has no operating grocery stores. There is Sonia's Market in San Luis that has some food. The San Luis People's Market will be coming back online any time now, and that's really hopeful. And they will probably be the ones that sell most of any local food grown in that county will probably go through the San Luis People's Market.
Hey, we're at the Ag Conference. We're with Amias Mestas. Hard to describe him. He's an artist and a farmer, but we want to talk farming.
I want to talk farming.
Okay. Tell me first how old you are.
I'm 20 years old.
20-year-old Amias Mestas. And what's interesting about him is his efforts to farm in the San Luis Valley, in your home county of Costilla County, in your family's ranch around San Pablo. Tell us about your efforts to start your own farming there.
Yes. It's been a long time that we've been focusing on this project. We've worked through the San Luis People's Market a little bit to grow some food, and then through Devon Pena and his program. And now it's now the time that I want to start my own small-scale, diversified vegetable crop farm. And so, we got an EQIP grant. We put up our greenhouse, 32 by 70, 2 feet long, and we've been looking to hire, especially throughout the summer season too, folks that are in the community who want to learn about growing good food and the healthy, vibrant soils, and just continue to foster a good relationship in the community and our food system. And
So how many acres will you farm on this summer or this year, 2025, just on the family plot that you're talking about?
On the family plot, we're talking nearly about 5 acres. It gets chaotic because we're growing over 90 different varieties of specialty crops, and that includes a lot of field tomatoes and peppers and sweet corn and peas and zucchinis, cucumbers, squash, lettuce, cabbage, cauliflower, carrots, you name it. And so it does get to be chaotic, but nevertheless, that's what it's all about, a diversified farm, and it's viable, it's sustainable, and economical, and I just enjoy doing it, and I enjoy feeding people.
So when you think of Costilla County, you think of where you grew up. What is your hope, goal with your own farming and then the community parts of that and fresh food in Costilla? What is your vision there?
Yes, so through the Colorado Food Recovery Grant that we received, we were able to receive a lot of equipment and processing and distribution, things that we need to get the farm off the ground and running, to grow healthy food for our community. We're a community that really needs food. I, as a young person growing up in that community, did not have access to fresh, healthy food like we did in Alamosa, and I realized the effects of being in an area where, a systemic area where high diabetes and chronic vascular disease and the stuff that it was in my family that I was facing. I knew I needed to eat healthy food, and so I wanted people in my area to eat healthy food as well, and to have the right food appropriation, the food that we grew up with culturally, which was like my grandpa's caber peas and beans and stuff that was local, and I didn't want to get rid of my heritage and my Basque culture, and so I wanted to eat a lot of the same foods that we just couldn't find anywhere, and people were, in our area, all they had is a Family Dollar, and now with the People's Market being established, and they will open shortly, there's nobody to buy local food from. And so my goal to make it equitable and just right is we had SNAP benefits. We're going to package a whole box, and you'll get a box for 22 weeks. And for 22 weeks, there'll be just fresh food of all kinds that people can have at a good price. And you don't have to buy everything piece by piece. It's just kind of like a cost, share kind of program off the farm.
So another thing you are working toward, or Costilla County is working around, is expanding the opportunities to grow and plant and grow fresh food in Costilla County. Explain what's happening in the county when it comes to facilitating more people being able to access land to grow.
Yes. So as I recognize it as a young person myself, I can't just go out and buy a lot of land because I'm kind of in a way not able to because of my situation. And there's a lot of maybe older farmers too who are might be in the same situation of financially not viable to go out and buy brand new equipment. So we're seeing a lot of people in the counties be able to establish like farm parks and people to grow foods on neighboring lands, and people just wanting to create a local food system in our area. And you really see this in the whole San Luis Valley as well. I talked to many growers in the Arc Valley, and they're just impressed with the San Luis Valley. How there's so much opportunity here. There's all these networking, the equipment, suppliers, businesses, people to buy the produce. There's just not a shortage of it, and everywhere you look, people just want healthy grown local food, and it's something I don't foresee going out of business anytime soon.
Are you hopeful, or where do you see Costilla County access to fresh food? We know it's been a fresh food desert. Where do you think you'll be in a couple of years, 5 years from now?
Yeah, I think I talked to a lot of my friends in Vermont, with the University of Vermont Extension or Kansas City Extension, and they're telling me that you're really on the forefront of what fruit and vegetable growing is, and you're really in a climate where it's challenging. It's high altitude, it's desert. You have to get ditch water, and there's a lot of challenges. But I see it that we're like on a new frontier of agriculture, where land ownership and how we think about it is changing, how we think about local food and what food is, and just about what the new ag revolution with this vegetable growing is, how it's sustainable, economically viable, and it's all over the country.
Tell us about your background, where you graduated high school, where you graduate college, and now we know about your farming efforts.
Yeah, so I went to high school here in Almosa High School and via Sangre de Cristo, and there I got kind of a agricultural education, and then later on it's something I realized I wanted to do alongside my many agrarian ways of living and other lifestyles with via art and farming. And so I went to college. I wanted to get a degree, so I went to Sterling College in Craftsbury Commons, Vermont, where I learned the simple way of living and agrarian way of lifestyle, and how farmers used to farm and still do, using farming practices that are very modern and cutting edge to the now. And so I internshipped at 100 plus vegetable farms in Vermont, numerous farms in Pennsylvania, and then later on coming back home to the Front Range to farm on the Kilt Farm, where I was a farmer's apprentice and farming in management, kind of the farm manager. And now it's kind of a fine line of wanting to educate people with farming and the land and getting back to the land. I feel like there's really a get back to the land like there was in the 70s, like there is now.
One of the interesting things and one of the really good things about Amayas is you're very optimistic and positive when it comes to addressing the food desert of Costilla County, when it comes to addressing the need for young farmers like yourself to come forward and start their practices. Congratulations. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, well, thank you, and thank you guys, and be sure to come to Castilla County to learn about our rich heritage, culture, and our food.
Hey, you've been listening to the Valley Pod in our episode from the 2025 Southern Rocky Mountain Ag Conference. The Valley Pod is produced by Owen Woods and is part of the Alamosas Citizen.com podcast lineup. See you around the valley.